Is masculinity something that we discover, or is it something that we grow into? That's what we're going to talk about today. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Patros podcast, where we are embracing and chasing biblical masculinity. That's what we're helping men develop. If you are watching this, you are most likely trying to become the man that God created you to be. And so today, we are going to be talking about masculinity. Is it something that we discover or grow into, and who defines it? So, Jeff, I have a question for you.
Okay, what's your name?
Which you probably already know. Oh yeah, my bad. If you're listening to this, you should know our names. But my name is Alan, and then Jeff Ford is the CEO and co-host of this show, but he is the CEO of Man Up and Go. And we are going to be talking about who defines masculinity. And because he's the CEO of Man Up and Go, I have this question for him, because he should probably have an answer. Who defines masculinity, Jeff?
Well, typically, you define it yourself, and that's the problem.
Yes, I agree.
Or our culture defines it, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
Right? Like we especially in America, man, we just want autonomy over everything. So it's like, don't tell me what to think. I'm my own person, rugged individualism, like go West, young man. Like that's kind of the ethos of our
We want to be
country.
our own God.
Yeah.
And so we get rid of God, become atheistic, and make our own rules.
Well, you're still believing in God. It's just you.
Yeah.
You know, you're worshiping something, right? So it doesn't make you an atheist. It just makes you worshiping the wrong God, which is you.
So when it comes to people defining their own versions of masculinity, I know in the last podcast we talked about culture curates a response to biology. Yeah. So what definitions do people typically have?
Yeah, I think the who defines masculinity, right? You've got, I mean, we can talk about it worldly, but like in our culture, in American culture, right? You've got, nowadays you've got influencers, but you have always had influencers, right? So, if you look at, the government sets an agenda for us, for sure. But in our day and age, it's highly like pop culture. Pop culture, I would say, I don't know what you think, but I think pop culture sets the tone for this more than anything. I mean, I guess there's something about the military and that mindset of might is right. We kind of think of that now. The military does way more than that, obviously, but we use military for mighty things, like when there's danger, when there's trouble, when we need to rescue people. Like, so that kind of the idea of protector provider, I think, is wrapped up in the military. So there probably is some of that gives us, oh, this is what it means to be a man. But I think, and I got a couple of quotes here, just like kind of different views on masculinity. So like John Wayne, for instance, right? Like when you think about culture and John Wayne.
Can you explain who John Wayne is?
Well, like he's before my time too, Alan. Don't act like you're
I don't,
young.
what time is he from?
Well, he was an actor, and he played in all these old Westerns, and was kind of the epitome of the tough guy, right? Like, or Clint Eastwood. I mean, I don't know if you know that name.
I do.
Like Dirty Harry, like he was, they played these roles of I'm tough. I'm kind of a loner. I don't need anybody, which hasn't, that actually hasn't changed. If you think about, and I think I've mentioned this before, if you think about the cover of
like the lone wolf kind of thing.
Yeah. The cover of a PS4 or PS5 game or whatever, and it's got like everything blowing up behind and the one guy walking out.
Yeah.
And everybody else died apparently, but this guy saved the day and he made it, and he's by himself.
Yeah.
So I think lonerism, like being alone, handling your stuff on your own. I think that's a lot of what we think masculinity to be. And where did we get that? Who defined it for us? I think the movies, like movies, pop culture, music, all of that stuff has such a powerful grip. Yeah. Right. But that is all derivative of I would say just a brokenness in the world. But some of these quotes are just kind of like think through. So like, I think if you look at the traditional view of masculinity, at least in our culture, we think strength, duty, stoicism. And even like we mentioned, different cultures have that same kind of viewpoint. But just a couple of things. John Wayne, right? Old actor, those Westerns. A man's got to have a code, a creed to live by, no matter his job. So there is something there to some kind of thing that drives you.
Yeah.
Right. That maybe is a little bit of outside of yourself, but is also like something you attach to. George Patton, famous general, said duty is the essence of manhood. So something to this idea of responsibility, commitment, duty. Frank Pittman, I don't know who he is, but this is kind of a difficult quote, but it's actually really good, what he's trying to say. He says, the great passion in a man's life is for his masculinity. And at any point in his life, he may be tempted to throw over the things for which he regularly lays down his life for the sake of that masculinity.
Wow.
I thought that was really...
He's a psychiatrist.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
So he's like, the idea, right, is that like our masculinity is everything to us. And in fact, like just to clue the listener in, you're dealing with some back pain right now.
Bro. This face of just like acting like it's all good is called stoicism.
You're acting in a traditional view of masculinity right now.
If you saw what I actually feel, you would see me in the fetal position.
A little kid crying in the corner. But like you said, like even your capacity to do things for your wife, you see the guy taking out the trash and you're like, bro, man.
That was in a private conversation.
Oh, sorry.
I'm kidding. You just out me. You said that you no longer feel like a man.
You didn't say it was a safe space.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, no, 100%. Like the things that we often attribute our masculinity to, which is our strength, our ability to serve in those capacities. I, for the last 3 days, haven't been able to do certain things. I've tried, or I have thrown out the trash a couple of times, but I am doing it with extreme amounts of pain and doing it in a way that's just like, it's not pleasant. And I'm looking at other people and I'm like, I miss doing that. And I don't feel like a man right now. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like affected your psychology. Like,
yeah, I'm having to work through like my brain went to a place where it was, because there are men that can't do certain things because they're paralyzed, they lost limbs or whatever other reasons. Does that not make them a man? And that's what I thought for myself was like, right now I'm dealing with pain. Pain sucks, but I can get over pain eventually. People that are dealing with the fact that they can't do the things that I'm probably going to be able to do in the next couple of days. Yeah. I'll be able to run. I'll be able to play sports again, do all the things, lift. There's people that have to have an identity shift because they no longer have access to those body parts.
Yeah.
What does that do to their relationship with their wives? What does that do to their relationship with God, themselves? And how do they now define masculinity when they've lost a part of us that really makes people look at us and say, I'm masculine?
It's a really interesting point. I really wasn't thinking we're going here with the conversation.
Oh, sorry. But you brought it up.
No. But that is a really interesting piece. So, because and if you've listened to us, I put strength as kind of the defining characteristic of a man is his physical strength just by his biology. And then how that works itself out, we
you have your unique cases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you can't do that, that is so much of a man's identity. Yeah. To your point about what you're going through, it's a microcosm of like maybe somebody, but again, these are outliers, right?
100%.
Like these are outliers that happen. And ultimately, if you were to ask any of those men, they probably would say to you, man, I wish I could. Like in a perfect world, I wish I could. However, the ones who are successful in moving on past that are ones who have found their identity in something else, and hopefully Christ, right? Like hopefully Christ is the one who elevates how we view ourselves, what we think of ourselves.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of Lieutenant Dan.
Who's that?
You don't know Lieutenant Dan?
I might just not know. I didn't watch. Is it a
Forrest
show?
Gump?
Oh, okay. Forrest Gump.
Lieutenant Dan.
I have to rewatch it.
Oh my gosh, you were such a young buck.
No, it's not about
he
being
had
young.
his
I
legs
just don't
blown
remember
off in the war. Okay, so he only had his torso. And
that's why they don't say run, Lieutenant, run. They say run, Forrest, run. That was not right. Maybe we cut that out.
That's actually not why they say it. But that is very funny. No, he has force on his boat, and they're the only ones who stay out in the hurricane, and he's up there with just his torso and just hanging on to the top of the boat and manning up, right?
Yeah.
Air quotes, manning up. And then they take in this like huge, they get rich because nobody else is out there getting all those whatever crawfish, whatever it is that they were trying to get. But like he was a drinking, womanizing, just kind of bastard of a man,
Gotcha.
like that's who he was. And it's because he had essentially his masculinity taken from us, right? Like he didn't have legs. When you don't have that which God has given you to be able to exemplify your strength and protect others and be fast and strong and do those things that kind of we're naturally better at than women, he lost his identity, and so he started drinking and womanizing. So my point was he went in the wrong direction, and so I really appreciate bringing up that aspect of this, because when that which is taken from us, which is supposed to ideally anchor us in some kind of biological, like God-formed identity, is like, where do we find it?
Yeah,
and that's a really good thought to have.
Yeah. So then, where do we find it? Like, where should I look? And who, what should that definition look like?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously this is a Christian podcast,
Of
so
course.
we have a Christian worldview, but I think that for all of us, we find our identity ultimately outside of ourselves, because if we're honest with ourselves, we consistently disappoint ourselves.
Yeah.
That's just facts. And we can be as arrogant as we want to be, but in the dark recesses of our mind, or when we're all alone, or when we're looking in the mirror, I mean, superstars look in the mirror and go, "Who have you become?"
Yeah.
And I saw Diddy do it on the documentary. Sorry, but he did. Yeah, who have we become?
Yeah.
That boy needs to do some
People
long looking.
Yeah. Well, the reality is, like that doesn't happen overnight, right? Like you don't become that, like diabolical, debauchery, all that stuff doesn't just happen overnight. It's a slow fade of saying yes to the wrong things or the wrong version of masculinity.
Yeah.
So you do one thing, then another thing, and the next you're dragging someone down the hotel hallway.
Oh man, I know. So who defines it? Obviously for us, it's God. God is the one who defines it. And I want to go on, we're gonna have a little science lesson. Okay. I'm gonna try not to make it dry, but I think this will drive home the point. Yeah. Because we tend to talk about this kind of on a common sense level, and it is there, but there's actually really good evidence around this. And when it comes to the differences between men and women, that I think we say, who does it come from? God did this. This was not, and this is why evolutionary biology is in my opinion so dangerous, because it comes from a vantage point where there was no planning. And because there was no planning and there was no purpose, then it is dog eat dog. Yeah. And the strong survive. There is no empathy. There is no, we don't care about other people. Yeah. We care only about ourselves.
Empathy is not good for survival.
It is not good for survival. No matter how they want to twist that, it's not good for survival, because that's more resources. The more empathic you are, the more resources that are taken, and that's less chance for you surviving. I mean,
there's so many reasons why it doesn't work, but
there's so many intellectually dishonest reasons. But God created us male and female, and this is Genesis 1, right? God created us male and female. So, fundamental distinction in biology: females produce immobile gametes, which are their ova, and male produce motile gametes, which is our sperm. Funny story. We're reading through the Bible, the kids and I. So we started Luke, and so I'm in Luke 2. Well, it just happens to be the Christmas season, so they know the story and they're reading through it, and I'm like, so, because in their version it'll say Joseph had not been with Mary, and
they don't know what been
this
means.
Is like Joseph had not lied with Mary or whatever it was. I don't think lied was the right way, but I was like, Jolie, do you know what
that means?
Oh, she was a virgin. I'm like, do you know like what it means to not be a virgin? Or I don't know how it came up, and she's like, I'm like, well, you have ovaries and those produce eggs. And she started going, la, 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 la. And my wife is cracking up
hilarious.
from the other room. She's like, I don't want to hear. I'm like, then there's their sperm. And the sperm from the male is swimming up. And that's where the conception takes place.
A human.
She did not want to hear it, bro. It's so funny though,
Good,
right?
good. I mean, tell her, you don't have to hear it.
You don't need to know it yet, but like you heard it here first.
Yeah.
Actually, she'd heard it elsewhere, I think. Well, I think mom already had explained this, and now dad has given a crack at it.
And then
she's
it's
like,
weird.
please don't. So anyway, that's like fundamental difference. Okay, secondly, hormonal profiles, like our endocrinology, right? Yeah. So I think we mentioned this last time. Males have testosterone 10 to 20 times higher than females. This drives, because of that testosterone, it drives muscle mass, bone density, facial and body hair. Mm-hmm. You got a lot of hair on your body?
Not body, but like, I mean, in the places where I should, right?
Okay.
Maybe not the back. I don't got back hair.
Voice deepening. Thank you for that. Voice deepening, libido, and competitive behaviors. Whereas females, because of their biology, they have estrogen and progesterone, they're dominant, which drives fat distribution, menstrual cycle, pregnancy support, and their immune system. So women have better immune systems than men because of estrogen.
Interesting.
Skeletal structure. Men, larger, denser bones, broader shoulders, more narrow pelvis, longer limbs relative to torso. Women, wider pelvis for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Greater Q angle at knees. I don't know what that means, but
Q angle at knees.
But
I think that's about their base is different than their leverage. So I don't know if you've seen this, but like men and women will do these movements, like go from a 4 stance, and then you put the hands up. Women can actually stay in this stance on their knees on the floor.
On their knees.
Men will fall.
Can't fall. Okay, so maybe
it's where our leverage is more so like our shoulders are wider. Theirs is there. It might be that.
Okay. And then smaller skulls. All right. Muscle mass and strength. On average, men have 40 to 60% more upper body muscle mass. They have, on average, 30 to 40% more lower body muscle mass. Higher grip strength, power output, and oxygen utilization. And this is primarily driven by testosterone and bone structure, not training alone. So anybody can train and get better. So women could get, but of course, most of these numbers are driven just by
genetics
biology.
Alone.
Yep. And then cardiovascular. Men have larger hearts, higher hemoglobin levels, greater lung capacity, and higher VO2 max. Whereas women have lower hemoglobin, smaller airway diameter, and greater risk of autoimmune and inflammatory responses, which matters when you're doing medicine and things like that. And then our brain neurobiology is relatively the same. We have differences in the corpus callosum connectivity.
What's that?
I had to look that up. It is the talking between the right brain and the left brain. So there are some wiring differences there and how they connect.
Like interconnectivity.
But ultimately, and then there's hormonal effects on emotional regulation, aggression, and stress response. But there is not a smart gene necessarily.
Of course.
So there's not one that,
higher IQ or whatever.
Yeah. The studies show that there's not anything that would say, this sex is
smarter.
Women live longer. Men die earlier from, guess what? Accidents, violence.
Yeah, risk, because we're not as risk averse. Yeah.
And cardiovascular disease. Yeah, risk. And because our hearts are larger, that's why we're the ones dying of the heart attacks, et cetera, et cetera. So all of those things, I bring all those up because these are differences that are indisputable. They are differences between men and women. One of the, I think, biggest problems in our day and age is this drive in some circles to androgynize us, right? To make it so that men and women are just the same in every way.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, I pointed out obviously some of the obvious ones, but how those ones then play out in real time makes a real difference. We can't have children. You and I cannot carry.
We can't birth a child.
We can't birth a child.
Or carry one.
Or all of it. So because of that,
I can't carry anything right now.
well, and our bodies are not designed to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And so it's no wonder when you had mentioned this in a previous meeting that women who, once they have children, they turn conservative.
Yeah, which I don't know if that's the data, but I've seen a lot of women that were more liberal come out and say, once I had kids, I had more conservative tendencies.
Yeah.
Because they became more mother instinct.
But the estrogen motherly. That drives nurturing and drives like risk, less risk, right? Those things would matter for her. So the point is like without us being like moving towards risk, things aren't going to get built. Horizons aren't going to get explored. Yeah. Problems aren't going to get solved. But without them holding us back from risk, there's a lot more men that die sooner than they should. And it was interesting because I did a lot of this research on Chat, and Chat was very like adamant about the fact that there is a binary structure between male and men and women. This is indisputable. Which is nice because you feel like, sometimes, the internet is not giving you all the things. So then testosterone, if you think about testosterone as like the biological engine, what testosterone reliably does, and this is just based on studies across the globe, is it gives men a drive towards action, risk tolerance, competitive orientation, status seeking, physical courage, aggression potential, and protective instincts towards kin and tribe. We would say, so when you hear that, when you listen to all that, would you say that any of that is like ungodly or unbiblical? Like, so what I'm trying to get at is if biology is saying that there's a certain tendency here, God made biology, then is the biology something that we should lean into in a healthy way? Yeah. And so when you hear that list, is there anything where you're like, well, yeah, that is wrong to do?
No. When I hear that, what I hear is these are the tools that need to be guided in the right direction, right? So how I protect, how I compete, status, all those things are not ungodly. I think they're agodly, and then you have to then figure out how do I use this? But God designed them. These are tools. Because that's really like self-preservation. All these things are things that God has designed for us to live in a godly manner. But without the scriptures, we will tend to then turn them into sin. Yeah, which is kind of what we talked about last podcast.
Yeah. So women, on average, show higher tendencies towards relational bonding, emotional attunement, risk aversion, nurturing behaviors, and internal and social regulation. And what was interesting is the next statement was these are complementary, not competitive.
And complementary,
it's just so crazy because if you say complementarianism in some circles,
that's a bad word.
You're going to be cursed off the stage.
You're trying to put the woman down.
Yeah. But even like Chat, now obviously it's taking from Christian, hopefully sermons and everything else. But this idea that we're complementary, we talk about who defines that. This is a God-defining characteristic.
Yeah.
And what we want to do, and it's obvious. All you got to do is look at biology, look at psychology, look at how women tend to act, look at how men tend to act. There's always outliers, but you can very obviously see, men tend to do these things, women tend to do these things, most of it driven by biology. And then the culture comes in and appropriates some of that stuff. So that's where we said, who defines it for us? Our culture then takes what God has designed and then starts to misappropriate.
And really, culture is the nice way of saying the flesh and the devil.
The flesh and the devil.
Because even when you think about this, is like, all right, feminism, which, there's reasons why women have to say, hey, we're taking a stand because men have been oppressive. There's reasons, and there's a lot of good reasons. And then there's also stuff that the devil has then taken and said, oh, I'm going to amplify this, and I'm going to make it to where we're going to make masculinity evil and feminism good, whereas it can just be complementary. And so what you have is you have a bunch of women that are being told, hey, do everything that the men are doing better than the men. Like, compete for their version of success instead of being really good at nurturing your children, building a home. Yeah. Like, what is success? And then I think the world has said success is what men are good at. Yeah. And then women have said, okay, then we're going to be good at that too. And it's like, yeah, you probably can be, but is that good? Period. Like, is that being good at what God designed you for?
Yeah. And this is the rub, because I know several, I'm thinking about them throughout the years, several very like intelligent women who have really gone down the
like chase the career
path, but also have taken what we would say is a liberal ideology, which is that men can do anything, or women can do anything that men can do, and that men are actually, and some of them, like, men are oppressive. And what's difficult about it is it is true that some men are oppressive.
100%.
And in fact,
systems.
We would say a lot of men and systems built by men tend to favor men.
Yeah.
So how do we communicate this to a watching world, that masculinity is good for culture, it's good for the universe, it's good for the world? Women and because our contention would be women and children are better when men are acting in healthy masculinity.
Yes.
Bar none, right? Yeah. And yet so many would say that masculinity is a pathology that is that we need to cure, that we need to dissect and figure out, what's wrong with it. There was a quote this guy said. He said, men in trouble are often in trouble precisely because they try to get a grip and act like a man, which is funny. Because when we talked about, in last episode, go back and listen to it if you didn't, we talked about that. We said you should act like a man. Yeah. Which was like another way to say be courageous. Like, courage is something that men should have, because we do live in an unknown, dangerous world, and it takes courage to face those unknowns when necessary, right? And when you state it like that, it feels very healthy. It's a healthy thing to do. But we've taken act like a man to mean something different than that, right? So we haven't defined the term. He says, we are at risk of suicide because the alternative is to ask for help, which we have been repeatedly told is unmanly. So then he gets it right. Yeah. Right? Like, that piece of it actually is right. But here's another one. Susan Griffin, I believe she's a feminist, said masculinity is a terrible problem as we construe and shape it. Gloria Steinem said, until the masculine role is humanized, women will tend to be much better at solving dangerous conflicts. So, like, there is this idea in the world, and this is the who. Who defines it? Well, you've got voices once they get a certain platform, certain influence, which
is a lot easier today.
A lot easier today, that are telling our kids and our young men or whatever that masculinity is a problem. And that's why I think
everything about your biology is wrong.
Yes. And so we've opened this door, and this is where it's so crazy, because even 10, 15 years ago, I would have never thought the transgender movement would have gained the steam that it has. Yeah. Because it is scientifically...
It's not science. Yeah.
It's psychology. Yeah. It's not science. And from the science crowd, you would think that you get a little more. And even for
psychologists, a true psychologist would look at that and say, this isn't science either. Yeah. They would say, this is more philosophical. You're playing with philosophy, which is then the definitions go out the door half the time.
Well, and certain psychologists would say it's a disorder.
Yeah.
And this is not to be demeaning towards anybody who maybe is struggling with that piece of it, but it is to say that we need to hear the truth. And in a world of a lot of voices that change over time, we need truth, and that truth is found in the scriptures. Yeah. Yeah. So if you're new joining us on the Patros podcast, this is a ministry of Man Up. And if toxic masculinity is a problem, like, the solution is Patros. So you can go to our website, manupandgo.org /Patros, or you can just go to the Man Up and Go website, and you'll be able to see resources, ways that we're connecting men to their true masculinity, and then what we do with it. Because at the end of the day, the orthodoxy is important. We need to train our minds, but what we do with it, our orthopraxy, is really the most important thing. Because if we know something and don't do anything with it, then we're like, I think about that verse in Corinthians, we're like a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. Like it doesn't matter. So check out our website, www. No one says www. manupandgo.org or patros.us for more.
I'm going to take you off your soapbox real quick.
What?
And we're going to go on the big finish.
Oh, we're already here to the end of the episode.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Let me get the timer on. Because the
big finish is 5 minutes where we talk about whatever. But this big finish is going to be Jeff answering my original question.
Oh, my bad.
So is masculinity discovered, or is it something that we grow into?
Oh, man. Okay. And I spent all that time talking about
it was good stuff.
Created.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is what we need to answer.
Yeah.
But then with that in mind, right? Who defines it?
Yeah.
Now, do we grow into it or do we discover it?
Yeah.
Or both?
I mean, I think this is a both and. We discover what God has already done, right? Like if you think about Psalms 139, God made us in our mother's wombs. And we're fearfully and wonderfully made. He didn't make any mistakes. And so if you were born with an XX, that's what you're supposed to be. If you're born with an XY, he did that on purpose for you so that you could live out your best for his glory.
Yeah.
Now, do we grow into masculinity? 1,000%. Do women grow into femininity? 1,000%. Because you don't learn something in a day. And I think, we have seen that when you have higher testosterone, you are more likely to be aggressive, to show anger, to resort to violence, all of those things with higher testosterone levels. And so we would say those are obvious misuses of masculinity.
Yeah.
So we want to channel those in a positive way. And so we have to go to the scriptures. I mean, we could think of a ton of scriptures about training your mind, renewing your mind, being around godly men, passing on wisdom to the next generation, which is, by the way, what Patros is all about.
Yeah.
Right? Is taking what we know, because if you have boys who aren't taught, you have men who know nothing.
Yeah.
Right? They don't know how to act. And how many young men have we come across? How many times have you said, "Man, Jeff, I wasn't really taught this."
Yeah.
So
I was talking to a friend the other day, and I was like, we're talking about something he did on his car, and I was like, "So you just know how to do that?" And he was like, he looked at me, he was like, "Well, Alan, my dad was around." And I was like, "Dang." But I was like, fair. And not everybody has a dad that can teach them that. Even if you do have a dad that's around that isn't not handy.
Yeah.
But it was one of funny moments. But that's a reality that most people have to deal with, is I haven't formed into the man yet because nobody has been able to form me. So
and you
to grow me into that.
And so what have you done? You've taken a pain point that is truly a pain point, and you've learned to deal with that pain point with humor. And that's what we do. We have coping mechanisms that help us to manage those like disappointments in our life. And I think it's healthy, because you acknowledge it. And
I'm doing it from a place of like, because we've had the real conversations, but it's from a place of I've healed.
Yeah.
Not fully healed. Yeah. There's still issues, but we have to be able to.
You got to be able to move on.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answered your question. So
that's good.
Okay. No. We got 145 left if you want to talk about something else.
How do we, so as we discover what masculinity is, and we've grown and we're growing into it, I think a lot of men, we probably don't know, okay, now I've grown into it, but what does that look like? Because we've never come to be, like, we're not finished, but Patros is us then doing what? With it? Like, what is the action plan that I have as I've become a man, grown into my masculinity? Do I teach other men, and how do I do that with Man Up and Go and Patros?
Yeah, I mean, Patros is a ministry of Man Up, and so we're here to to try to hopefully teach and encourage men to do that. But yeah, it starts in your home, right? Like if you're not reading the Bible, your kids are not going to be reading the Bible. If you're not praying with your wife, your kids are not going to pray with their spouses one day. And the easiest thing that you can do, honestly, is just read the Bible with your kids. Studies show that if the single biggest way you can pass on your faith and pass on what masculinity is, and growing into that godly woman or man is to just read the Bible. And the nice thing about reading the Bible is if you force yourself to read it, you get all the stuff. You don't get to like camp out on your favorite theology or your favorite verse or your favorite, or the thing you understand or don't understand. You actually get to read it all. And so you'll be confronted with verses that say, act like a man. And now it's like, well, hey dad, what does that mean to act like a man? Or, hey son, let me tell you hey daughter, this is what a real man does. This is how. So I think, because I only have 11 seconds left.
Well, can I say something for the single man? So, and I have a friend that started a Patros group in Ohio. Shout out to Nick. And he's single. And so you can be a Patros even if you're single.
Yeah. Oh man, you timed that up real well, Alan.
So we'll see you guys on the next podcast of the Patros podcast. God bless you.